stay confident, and don't read into things, and just be confident in who you are, and just focus on what you're doing. Don't worry about everybody else. Just focus on what you're doing, because it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Like you're the one that's got to go in the net.
Excellence is about standing, and excellence is a requirement for your dream to come true.
I started out as a defenseman, just as a kid. I wasn't originally a goalie. So I think one of my first memories playing hockey was probably learning to skate and with a hockey stick while my dad was coaching some older kids at the time. He was coaching in I'm from Brantford, Ontario. So it was the Brantford minor hockey teams. And, for me, I was basically just hugging the side of the boards, trying to stay on my feet, trying to learn how to skate and kind of pick up speed on skates and stuff like that. So, I think that would be kind of my first memory of learning how to skate and how to play hockey at that time. But then shortly after that, I was, once you pick it up, you start to progress. And then I was, just switched to goalie after a short amount of time. After that, wasn't too much longer that I stayed a defenseman. So,
nice. And was your family in sports? You said your dad was training the younger kids, but do you have a history in the family of playing hockey at higher level, or?
No, I'm an only child in my family, so it's just me and my mom and dad. And then I had a childhood dog growing up, but right now we don't have any pets at the house. But no, my dad was a goaltender as well, but he never really played super high in hockey. Played some juniors and stuff like that. But then he picked up refereeing after when I was super young, just when I was born, just kind of a little side gig for some money and stuff like that, and still be involved in the game. And then, when once I started to be old enough to start to play, that's when he was kind of involved with some more coaching and stuff like that. If he had some buddies that he wanted to coach with, I think he was coaching it might have been 15-year-olds at the time, or 14-year-olds, a little bit later. Getting closer to the junior hockey age, but I was still super young. So that's kind of the extent of that when it comes to, my family in sports. My mom wasn't really too big into sports. She was surrounded by baseball in her family growing up her whole life. And then I played some t-ball growing up, but that's about it for my baseball skills. But yeah, they're both great. They're super supportive of my my hockey career and just my lifestyle and everything like that. So, I've been very grateful to have parents like them for sure.
Nice. So here in Canada, and me being from France, I see soccer in France. Here, hockey is the number one sport. Yeah. So 80% of the kids end up playing at some point in time hockey.
Yeah.
0.01% probably make it to the highest level. Do you remember yourself, or do you remember your family realizing at which point for them you had something more maybe than the others? And how that changed it with education and just lifestyle in general?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, just because I would love to see it as I get older too and have kids, and kind of see it from that perspective as well, because when you're going through it at such a young age, it's kind of hard to understand what that feels like, just because of the element of I'm in it playing, right? It's I'm growing up, and it's 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And you're just trying to go out there and have fun and do your best. And when you're looking at it from a parent perspective, it's obviously a lot different, just because, you're trying to put your kid in the best possible position to further themselves in life and in their hockey career, sporting career, right? So I think for them, when I was around 13, 14 years old, when, OHL teams from Ontario start calling you and start, just knocking on the door a little bit about, your skill set and what they see in your son or whatever. So I think that's when they really started to realize that maybe our son can actually make a career out of, playing sports. And I think they always knew I was athletic growing up. I refer to myself kind of as a natural athlete. I've always been pretty gifted with, when it comes to just doing anything sporty, I could pick up a tennis racket and probably rally with you, but I wouldn't be too crazy good at it, right? But I think for myself, I think I'm very gifted in that way. So for me, being hockey as my main sport that I grew up playing, it's just, I think once they realized that I actually could make a career out of it, that's kind of what I just chased the entire way down. So it'd be really interesting to see like I said earlier, as I grow up and have kids, if my athletic genes can transfer over, and maybe I'll have that experience too. So that'd be cool.
And do you remember how they and you approached like education? 13, 14, you said it's pretty much when they realized that you had something more.
Right.
But it's also the moment when you are in secondary, high school and stuff like that. So you still have to study because you're probably at that time in the top 2%, but you need to be in the 0.01%. So there's still that risk that you might not make it to pro and get contracts. So
100%.
Did you manage to keep working at school and stuff like that at the same time as you were like traveling, probably on the weekends, even during the week?
Yeah, I think that was probably a really big challenging part of doing that. Was just I was playing. So where I'm from in Brantford, it's like an hour south of Toronto, and I played my last 5 years of minor hockey in Toronto. So I was almost like leaving elementary school, and my elementary school luckily was like right down the street from my house. So I was like getting off of school at 3, walking home, having some peanut butter sandwiches, and then like hitting the road to go to Toronto for like 5 or 6 o'clock practice, right? So it's just like that was probably the biggest challenge in my schooling, was like those years through elementary school. And then once I got into junior hockey, I had to decide obviously if I wanted to sign with my OHL team, because once you sign with an OHL club, you can't play in like American University. Like I can't go play for University of Michigan or like NCAA teams like that. So it's kind of like in the hockey world, you got to pick one or the other, right? And the OHL and the CHL, like here in Quebec, it's the QMJHL. It's just kind of like they view those leagues as kind of a mainstream league. It's very realistic to like the NHL hockey. It's a longer season. You know, they have playoffs. It's teams. Like it's the same as college, but different, because in college you play only 30 games, so it's a shorter season. You're doing school at the same time. The people are a bit older there. Like when you usually go to college, it can range from like 18-year-olds to 22-year-olds or 18 to 24-year-olds. Like it depends on everybody's situation. Mm-hmm. So for junior hockey, it's very cut and dry. It's 16 to 20-year-olds and longer season. It's very NHL realistic, and you get drafted to the NHL at 18 years old. If you're good enough, you can go play, right? So, and that's kind of the education part, where once I signed my contract in the OHL, they do scholarship packages with the CHL. So for every year you play, you're automatically guaranteed a year of schooling.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But for my contract specifically, my junior team that I was drafted to was offering me 2 years of school up front if I signed. And then I think it was 2 years after that for my next season, or even just 1 and 1. I can't remember. I ended up playing 3 seasons there, and it didn't matter. So I had my schooling covered, which was great. And I love that the CHL does that, because then it gives kids opportunities to not like wait out that time to, you know, maybe just play junior A or whatever, like not play in the highest tier of junior hockey because they want to chase their dreams in college, right? So it's very, that's where I think the hockey world is very unique, because it's just like, you got to make a decision at some point for like, if you want to go do your education and play at a school, or if you want to kind of, you know, roll the dice a little bit and try to play in the OHL or in the QMJHL. And then, you know, if you think you're good enough to make the big bucks right away, you can. And if not, you can use your school package and still go to university after, which is great too. Like I have some buddies that actually play at like McGill, which is like really cool. And I think that's a good aspect that the CHL has, because then it kind of accounts for those players that commit to the league and they want to play here. And if it doesn't work out for them, they can still, you know, go play some Canadian university hockey and then maybe play some pro afterwards. You see guys do that too. So, yeah, for myself, my situation is very different, because once I got drafted to the NHL, and I signed my first NHL contract with Minnesota, my school package gets washed. It gets wiped away from me. So now I'm on the hook from my school. So I pay for all my school now. Actually, I do online classes with Algonquin just in Ottawa, but they offer full online programs. So it's easy for me while I'm playing wherever. My last 4 years of pro, I was playing in Iowa, but I was doing classes from Algonquin, which was good. So this year will be a bit easier being on Eastern time here in Quebec. But yeah, that's kind of how that works.
It's pretty insane how you went through all those possibilities and all those avenues and those choices that you have to make between 13 and even before you're 18 years old.
Yeah.
You said on the one hand, you can choose to be safe in a sense and keep studying and have your scholarship. On the other hand, you can, like you said, roll the dice and maybe go the routes where you think you're going to make the most money as quick as possible.
Yeah.
But you're super young. So how do you surround yourself with the right people? Is it still, were there your parents, were they involved, in the decision-making process? Do you already have like people, I don't know, staff and people like that helping you in those decisions? Because they are life-making decisions that you're not necessarily ready for at 15, 16 years old, right? And your family, as you said, wasn't necessarily from that world before. So apart from being older than you and being maybe wiser, they don't have that experience either. So how do you go about finding the right solution? There's no right solution in a sense, but how do you go about finding what fits you best?
Yeah, I think like for them, when I was going through that process of getting drafted to the OHL and kind of progressing through hockey and stuff like that, that's where I think it wasn't really a choice at the time. Like I think it was just, it's what we had envisioned. Like my dad is super passionate about hockey, and I think once he saw that I was capable of doing special things with hockey, that like he was just all in on that idea. And like that I was as well. Like once I was drafted to Peterborough in the OHL, like that kind of was like, it kind of just like snowballed from there, where I wanted to just keep hitting the boxes after that, keep checking the boxes off to get to the National Hockey League. And I'm still checking those boxes off, but it just started with getting drafted, and then after getting drafted, it was getting signed to the team, and then after I signed with the team, it was making the team. Like when I was 16 years old, I signed my first contract with the OHL team, but I didn't make the team that year. I actually played a year down in like junior A. It was like a level underneath the OHL, and I played there for the season, and I was called up at the end of the year with Peterborough, and then I played the next 3 years with Peterborough after that, which was awesome. But so my first year with the Peterborough Petes, I'm born 6 days late at the NHL draft cut line. Okay. So like September 15th is the draft deadline for like a year of hockey. So it's like January 1 to September 15th is the draft eligible players. So my birthday's September 21st. So all the kids that were 2000 year birth years were drafted in 2018 until September 15th. So I was September 21st. So I was drafted with the 2001s basically. So I was in 2019. Is
that an advantage or not for you?
I mean, it was for me because
you have 1 year more to prove yourself.
Exactly. And so I played that first season with the level below, and my second season was one of the worst seasons that we've ever had in Peterborough Petes history. And the Peterborough Petes are one of the longest running CHL teams in Canada. We were really bad that year, and I would not have benefited from that at all. I don't know if I ever would have been selected that season. So I didn't really play a lot that year, and my numbers definitely didn't look sexy that year either. So I don't know if I ever would have been picked. But I was really grateful because my next season I got to play with the team. I got to take the starting role and play a bunch of games, and actually did really well. And then I was drafted super high to the Minnesota Wild. And then that was another box. It was like, okay, now I'm picked to the NHL. Like, what can I do with this? So went to camp with Minnesota, came back and played another year with Peterborough. I had another great year, and that's when COVID came and our season got shut down. But in March, I was offered a contract from Minnesota Wild, my first NHL contract for 3 years, and that was another box. So at that point, I was just like, yeah, like I'm gonna get more than enough money with this contract to cover my schooling. Like my OHL contract will cover my schooling for sure, but like this money that I will receive from the Minnesota Wild, I will always have this money to go to school, right? So that's what I ended up doing. And every time you always do those decisions, you always talk it through with your family. But I felt like when they're throwing, an NHL contract in your face, it's kind of hard to turn it down too, right? And especially after I chose to go the OHL route, right? I didn't go to university and stuff like that and do it at the same time. But now that I've seen that other aspect of that in professional hockey as I've moved on, I've seen guys that, they come out of college at 23 or 24 and they're also, they're a first year pro. And like, I'm going in my 5th year of pro. And that's just because I was so exposed to it so early. I was like 20 or 21 years old. I think I was 20 years old when it was my first year of professional hockey. And I think that's just like a huge advantage for me, but also like a disadvantage for me because those guys are graduated with their major or whatever, and they got their diploma, and I'm still like working on that stuff for whatever. Like I have no idea, right? That's a big mystery for my lifestyle too, is just like, how long am I going to play hockey for? What am I going to do? I've been a hockey player forever, you know. It's just like, that's a whole nother even conversation, right? So like the education side is very unique in the sport too. So it is cool. Like you see both sides of it. For myself, I was a OHL guy, but like if you had like an NCAA hockey player sitting in this seat too, that'd be an interesting conversation just to see the comparison of like those two different worlds for sure.
And it's very interesting. So you said you cannot really refuse an NHL contract when it's thrown at you in a sense.
Yeah.
You got drafted, so 2019, you said?
Yeah.
For many young people dreaming of NBA, NHL, NFL, all of this, it seems like it's the end of the road, right? It's like, getting drafted, getting in the NHL.
Yeah.
But for you, what did it mean when you just, first got drafted and got that contract? You still have to prove yourself. You don't have like a spot in the starting team, and you still have to prove over and over, and then you have, like you said, going to the AHL team or ECHL, and then back and forth, different cities, different states.
Yeah.
How do you live with that uncertainty? You might have a contract, yes, but at the end of the day, you might play 2-3 teams in the same season, moving over and over again. How do you, first of all, manage that with, girlfriend, family, and all that, plus just the mental aspect of not really knowing if you'll play next game for the same team, for example?
Yeah, it's very challenging. Like I think that's like that's the life of pro hockey, and especially as a goaltender, like there's only 6 of us usually in an organization, or even like 5 that are on like affiliated to the big club, right? Like sometimes you have like 5 goalies signed to the organization, and then you have just like a guy that's been signed to like an East Coast League team, right? Like it's just his contracted there. So I think that's a huge challenge, because for myself, I haven't played in an NHL game yet. Like, and it's like I said to you earlier, I'm going into my 5th year of pro, but the majority of it, like I've been American League in the ECHL, right? I've been called up for little stints in the NHL, but I've never actually gotten a chance to put my feet on the ice yet in an actual game. So, and that's what you keep striving for. You keep working towards that goal to keep one day pushing to try and get to that point. But I think that's a huge aspect of pro hockey, and especially the minor leagues, because the NHL guys, I've seen the lifestyle. It's unbelievable. You can't ask for anything else. Like those guys live the life, like the charter planes, and it's a grind for sure, because it's a different type of grind. You're flying a lot, and you're traveling, and you have to, it's not, I'm not going to say it's the worst job in the world, because it's definitely one of the better jobs in the world. You want to be a professional athlete. You get to wake up and put your skates on every day. Like it can't be that bad, right? But like, I'll tell you what, it sucks when you burn 2,000 calories in the morning and you're dying in the afternoon, right? Like it's a different type of grind, because your body is just exhausted. Like it's just like, that's the grind aspect. It's not like, oh, you go play hockey. It's like, yeah, I play hockey, but it's like, it's hard.
You work hockey.
Like it is hard. So it's a different type of grind, but it's very respectable in that way. For what you're trying to say is like, you don't know if you're going to be playing here one day, or you get called up in a second and you're on another team, right? So that's happened a few times when my girlfriend has came down to try and visit me, and I'm playing for one team, and she's like looking at the schedule, trying to plan a trip down to come and see me. And then she'll come down, and it's like, oh, injury happens, and I'm called up to the other team, and it's like, oh, we got to change our whole like plans that we had now, right? So, and for me, I've had a good luxury, because with Minnesota, both teams are in Iowa. Both minor league teams, the AHL and ECHL teams, are both in Iowa, and they're only about 90 minutes apart. So it's very similar to Laval, which is awesome. Like Montreal's here, Laval's across the water, and then
ECHL is
Trois-Rivières, just up the road. So it's like very similar. But I think it's cool for me this season going with Laval, just because it takes the border aspect out of it for my family, right? Like before, it was like, just adds another element of got to cross the border and go. Like nobody wants to go to Iowa. It's just corn down there. But hey, any Iowa people listening, I loved Iowa. My time there was great. But yeah, it's definitely a crazy grind.
And you, there is also, for you personally, you've played with the AHL, the ECHL, and the NHL, 3 different level or tiers of pro hockey.
Yeah.
Where do you not feel better? But of course, you said you've been called on the NHL team a few times without necessarily playing, or the AHL or the ECHL, where you probably play all the games.
Mm-hmm.
there's like being a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Does that also change how you approach the game in general? Because you're called to the NHL, so it's like a high, but you don't necessarily play, versus you're going to the AHL or ECHL, which might be like a downgrade, but at the end of the day, you'll excel, you'll be able to prove yourself. So how do you approach that? Is that something, do you have preference in a sense? Of course, you would rather go and play and be in the starting team for the NHL, which is the top goal. But going back and forth, how do you manage that and the mental aspect of it?
I would just say that it kind of goes into what you said with the big fish in a small, or a big small fish in a big pond, and then a big fish in a small pond, where as you get down to the East Coast League, you're kind of looked at more of like you, if you're down here, you're here for a reason, but like you're one of the best players like on this team, right? Like, and that's, especially in goaltending, it's a little bit different just because there's only so many spots, 2 spots a team, right? So like I said to you, most East Coast League teams are probably going to have one affiliated goalie down there, right? So for myself, that's been me for like the past 3 seasons with Iowa. I've been like the 5th guy down with the Iowa team. So I've been playing the majority of the games with the Heartlanders the last couple of years. Last year I didn't play a lot with injuries and just some other stuff going on, but the year prior I played a bunch. And I think it just, it's a little bit of like a mental battle, because you always want to keep excelling and keep improving and get to the next level. And you want to always just like, when you're in the American League, you know, you're like one injury away or one call up away from, you know, being on that NHL squad, right? Or whatever. It's, you just know that you're that much closer to being to where you want to be. And the problem with getting called up to the National Hockey League is that once you get up there, it's just, how do I stay here? Right. Like, and that's tough in goaltending as well. It's like,
especially if you cannot necessarily prove yourself.
For sure. Like, you almost need like you need a little bit of a break to get yourself into the net, because everybody has a plan. Like, now that I've been in the business for a little bit, understand it a bit more, like, people, like, there's contracts, there's cap space, like, the people are in the office like looking at that stuff. Like, it's not as easy as like, we'll just throw them in. And it's like, I'm the cheapest guy on the team probably, but it's like, someone's not, like, I might not even be able to fit unless you put somebody, like, I have to be able to fit into the cap space. And like, if we're looking at terms of playing, it's almost like if someone signed there for 3 years or 6 years, like Carey Price here was signed forever, he's still getting paid and he's not even playing. But it's just like, when guys get big contracts like that, it's almost like, oh man, how am I going to fit into this organization when guys are going to be here for so long? And it's like, it's almost like you want to prove yourself and time that to when that person is finished, if that makes sense. It's like, let's say this goaltender signs for 3 years and I'm just starting my career. It's like, that's awesome. Like, give me 2 years down in the minors and hopefully I do well. Mm-hmm. And then I can make my push into the National League. And then I have to prove myself there to make myself. And that's kind of how goaltending works. Like, where you need a couple good bounces in a row to set yourself up for success. And like, that's the mental battle where you have, is just like, you got to show up and work every day and try to improve your craft no matter where you're at. Like, I have a bunch of buddies back home that have already played a handful of National Hockey League games that are my age, or they've gotten a good break with an organization and they've played 30 National Hockey League games, or they've played well. And it's just like, or I have buddies that are playing full time in the American League, and there's no saying I don't feel I can do that. I definitely feel I can do that. But sometimes you got to prove yourself too. You got to make yourself better every day. And that's where the mental grind happens, where you have to wake up and you're like, I had that a lot last season, where you wake up and you're like, man, like this, it sucks sometimes. You like, you see the value in yourself and others don't sometimes. And I think that's very broad in life too. Like, I think people have that with regular jobs. People see themselves higher and their bosses don't. And like, that's just the way of the road. And so you just got to keep waking up and keep doing your thing and keep getting better. And that's like, I'm going to be 24 this September, and like, it's almost like I'm still young, but it's like other kids are coming, you know, and
they are the ones who will think the same way you think right now.
Exactly. So it's like, I've learned a lot through my first 4 years of pro, and I just want to keep progressing. And I'm super excited for this season to have a great opportunity with this organization. And it's a good fresh start, new team, some new colors. And I've had some buddies play on the team as well. So it's been cool to hear what they've said about it. And saw the rink yesterday. It's a beautiful place, beautiful area. And je peux parler un petit peu français, mais pas beaucoup.
It's gonna get better.
Yeah, it'll get better. I went to French immersion for a little bit,
Okay.
but once I moved away for my Peterborough hockey, I had to stop. But I got my Duolingo app.
Nice.
It's rocking right now, so we're getting there.
Nice. So before talking about the upcoming season and your goals, I'm very much of a goal-setting guy. I removed recently the stuff that usually hung on the wall, which are like daily, monthly objectives that I have for the company here, and long-term vision in a sense for the next year and stuff like that. So I'm very bullish on all those stuff, trying to always set goals personally for the company and all that. On your side, you said sometime waking up in the morning is tough because you're like, oh shit, it sucks. I'm not being given my chance and stuff like that. How do you go about setting those goals, whether they be like daily goals with training and all that, and then where I'll be next week, next month, next year, and like especially as you don't know where you might end up?
I think like it's tough for a goaltending perspective to set short-term goals, I find. Just because like it could just be a personal thing too. I feel like sometimes I get so hung up on like short-term results that it affects my short-term goals. And I also look at that, it also stems into going into long terms. Like I think every season a goalie wants to keep their GAA, but like our goals against average below 3 goals. You want to be above a 900 save percentage. And that'd be a relatively good season. If you can get a winning record too, like that's a great season. You get a winning record, you're over 90%, and you allow less than 3 on average, that's a great season, you know? And I think for myself, that's the long-term goal I've set for myself since junior hockey. And sometimes you achieve it and sometimes you don't. So I think that's probably an aspect of my life where I can improve is setting more short-term goals that are realistic. And I don't think they have to be so much results-based. Like I think like those statistics are very cut and dry, right? It's just like it is what it is. So I think if I can come up with a way to manage my short-term goals better, then it wouldn't affect probably my mental health as much, right? Because then let's say it's like, okay, my short-term goal is to win 2 games this week. If I don't win 2 games, how am I going to feel? I'm going to feel probably pretty like, oh, I didn't achieve my goal, you know? So I think if I can set more realistic goals of not, I wouldn't say realistic, but just like not result based. Like I think that would be better for myself, but that's obviously like, that's a question for almost like a sports psych doctor, almost like where they can break that down. And I'd listen into that podcast actually where they can break that down and tell me how to like, hey, like just tell me like, how do we create goals that are good to improve you as an athlete as the season progresses? Because I think that's a big part of having a successful season. Like you want to kind of have a little bit of motivation each week or each practice. Like for myself, when I go into every practice, I'm always thinking about something. Like it's like, okay, today I want to work on, you know, tracking the puck well, or I want to control my rebounds better today. Like I struggled with that last game. I want to be Velcro today, like have it stick to me all the time, or I want to make sure all my passes are crisp on breakouts or whatever, right? So I think those little things are more of what I do on a day-to-day basis. Every time I go out for practice, it's like, okay, I'm focusing on one specific thing today. Let's improve that. Let's get better. And yeah, like I think I could get better at short-term goals for sure. But I think that's the biggest thing that I do personally is that just setting those little bits of like focus and practice and to improve my craft.
Mm-hmm. So typically you landed or flew in here 2 days ago. You said you had to go and you were invited to go skate.
Yeah.
What did you set or what was your mindset going to on the rink for the first 2 days? You have to prove yourself, especially in your organization and everything. How did it go? And if we just take those 48 hours, what did you take out of that for the start of the trip here?
It was really cool because I had never really been to Montreal, like, and actually walked around and stuff like that. I came a couple seasons ago when I was with Iowa, and my good friend was playing for Trois-Rivières, and we were playing Trois-Rivières, and then we went over to Newfoundland. They're not a team anymore, but we had like a cool little trip up on the East Coast here. So I actually landed in Montreal, and then it was late because I was actually called up. That was a crazy trip. That's a crazy story, actually. I was with the Iowa Wild. That kind of goes back into what you were saying earlier. I was with the Iowa Wild over in San Jose in California on a road trip with them. And I heard rumors, not rumors, but like you hear stuff from like you're talking with the goalie coach, and I'm like, hey, what's the plan for the weekend? Am I going to get into a game here? And then, so you kind of just hear things like, okay, we're going to have you for the weekend, and then you're going to go down and meet the boys on the trip on the East Coast. And I was like, okay. So I flew from San Jose, California, all the way over to Montreal to meet up with the team here on the road trip. So that was a absolutely crazy travel day for me, just to get back to Iowa, grab my stuff that I had in Iowa, because I got to get my luggage and stuff that I brought from the call-up. Grab that, put it in my car, drive my car to the airport, and catch a flight to go out to Montreal. So that was my first experience in Montreal. Was like landing here late at night. Everything was like super dark. And then I get picked up from like my team media people. And we just drove straight up to Trois-Rivières, slept over, and then woke up and played some hockey. So I never really got to experience it. So my first 48 hours here have been awesome. I got to see the city a bit more and walk around, and we're going to do some more walking around later today. But yeah, it's beautiful. So I'm really excited to be a part of that. And on the hockey terms, it's been really good too. I had a couple skates with Marco, the goalie coach with Laval, and he's a really good guy, really good instructor as well. Definitely different than what I'm used to. He's very vocal and very very picky, but it's like you need that in goaltending. Like you need someone to be in your corner, and just like it's all about details when it comes to goaltending too. It's what separates really good goaltenders from the not good goaltenders, right? It's that extra 1%, 2% of like what you do that makes you better. And I think if you look at like clips of like Carey Price or Vasilevsky or like some of the great goalies, you can see those little details of what they do that much better than other goaltenders or average goaltenders. So for myself, being a young guy and trying to develop my game, it's all about just like harnessing those details and getting better. And that's what makes you every day. You just keep putting those bricks on top of each brick, and you just hope to get there one day.
Nice. When does the season start? October?
It doesn't start till October, yeah, but I'll be coming back down in September for camps and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's just like in and out.
Yeah, my summer gets pretty busy. So after I signed with Laval, he had reached out. He called me on the phone. He's like, hey, don't be a stranger if you're ever in Montreal. I'm like, if I'm ever in Montreal, it's like a 6-hour drive. I was like, I can make some time though. So like this was kind of the best week for me to come down and see it before kind of my summer gets more hectic as it goes on here. But it makes more sense to come down early July than it would be to come down late August when I'm going to be here for camp in September, right? Like it's probably the second week of September I'd be coming back for camp and stuff like that. So I wanted to get down here and check it out. But yeah, it's been good.
And then in the meantime, so then there's the personal discipline part. You said second half of September. So up until then, you have 2.5 months.
Yeah.
If you're not necessarily with the team here, with another team, what's the schedule like? How do you, what do you plan for 2.5 months before the season?
Yeah, that's just kind of like, it's up to you. It's the off season for all the guys. So for myself, I train back home in Brantford throughout the week. I'm at the gym 4 days a week, and I also skate like 3 to 4 times a week as well. So my weeks are usually done on Thursday, but it's like Monday to Thursday I'm working, pretty hard. I'm on the ice and then working out. And then, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I just, golf with my buddies or hang out with my family. Nothing too crazy, just enjoying the off season. That's what it's for. You don't really get to do that stuff throughout the season. Your weekends are usually pretty filled up through the season in the wintertime with games and stuff like that. So in the season, my weeks are actually a lot better because Monday to Thursday, it's like, okay, we go to the rink, we practice, and then I kind of got the rest of the day to kind of just hang out and be around my teammates or be with my girlfriend or whatever. So, the summers are nice. You get to enjoy the nice weather. You get to hang out with your buddies that you don't see all year. Some old hockey buddies that are away for different teams that you may not see and stuff like that. So it's always a good reset to go home and see your family and just to be around I never get to go home. So, it was, I don't know if I've been home for Christmas the last 3 or 4 years just because the schedule doesn't, align very well. I'd be home for like 2 days and it's like, I got to get on a flight. It's like, I'll FaceTime you, so it's, especially when I don't have any siblings either. It's just my parents. There is not much going on. It's just So it's just like, Merry Christmas, and they'll send me some gifts in the mail and stuff like that. So it's that's getting older, right? It's just that comes with it. So
Yeah. And on the logistics side, once the season starts, you have a contract here with Laval. You might play in Trois-Rivières. It might be a silly question that what do you do with renting a house, or how does that work?
I can tell you how that works. So my first year with Iowa, I think it was like half of the East Coast League was playing just because of the COVID season. It was like the 30 game year. It wasn't too crazy. So when I go to camp, I'll go to camp in Montreal this year. They're going to have me with the Montreal camp this year, which is awesome. I get to be a part of another NHL camp. And then after I get cut from there, I'm going to go to the Laval camp. And then from there, it really is a toss-up from there. If I make the team, they give you a housing letter, which basically just tells you have 14 days to get out of your hotel room. Like you have 14 days to basically find an apartment. Yeah. And then just basically says that they're not going to pay for the hotel room anymore. And it's that's basically how that goes. When you're down in the ECHL, they actually pay for your living down there. Like they have like team apartments. So it's and I've seen the ones in Trois-Rivières because that's where my buddy had played. So I went over and saw the places after we played them. And they're beautiful places. They're right on the back of a golf course, and they're like townhomes and duplexes. And they usually just like stack a couple of guys in a duplex. So you usually have two guys in an apartment. I mean, my last 3 seasons with Iowa, the Heartlanders, I've had a roommate, just one roommate. My first year there, I actually had 3 roommates. We had a four bedroom apartment. It was crazy.
Interesting.
But and then my next 2 years, I had the same roommate back to back, and he's a good buddy. He's a great pal. So
nice.
And then so super excited either way. If I get to find a place here in Laval, then that'd be great. Get to play for the Rocket, and then if I start the year down in Trois-Rivières, that's good too. I've seen the living down there, and the arena is awesome down there too. Good area. It's just very French, so there's not a lot of English.
Yeah. Even more in here.
Yeah, for sure.
In next May, June, let's say at the end of the season next year, what will you consider like a successful season for you?
I think at the end of next year, a successful season for me would just be what we kind of talked about earlier. If I can manage to have a winning record and have my numbers be where they are.
3.
Yeah, less than 3 and then 90%. I think that'd be a really good season for me. And if I can do that in both leagues, like I hope to get up and if I start the year down in Trois-Rivières, that's totally okay. I just want to play well when I'm down there and play games and just get that exposure and just be dominant. Like I know I have the skill set to be dominant down in that league, and I just want to prove that to everybody. And then just so I can be a full-time player in the American League, and I know I can do that. And I just think that takes time and it takes games. So for myself, I'm really excited for this upcoming season. So if I'm able to do that in both leagues and play and be called up here in Laval for a while, then or make the team, and like that would be amazing. So I don't really know what the future holds. It's a very crazy question just because this is my first time ever becoming a free agent and signing with another team. I was drafted to Peterborough, played for Peterborough, drafted in Minnesota, played in their organization, and then this is kind of just like a new chapter. So I'm really looking forward to, being able to prove myself with this organization, and then possibly, seeing how that progresses from here. If I stick here next season would be awesome. And then if I don't, then hopefully I have a good enough season where, I'm getting a good contract from another organization. Right. So just want to keep playing.
Nice. So I wish you all of the stuff you just mentioned for the upcoming year.
Thank you.
So you started your career about 4 years ago as a pro.
Yeah.
You hopefully have 20 more years to go.
Yeah, hopefully.
But everything can happen. Do you already think of what might be next, whether it's in 2, 5, 10, or 20 years from now?
Yeah. It's crazy. I watched last year. It's like almost brought me to tears last year. I had like this an old clip of like an old interview of me on YouTube that the City News did on me in Peterborough. That it was like right before my draft season. And it was asked the same question. It was like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's just like, and it's been 5 years. And like I was watching it back, and I was like, it's crazy to see how I spoke about myself back then. and like to see where I am today. It was like a very like self-proud moment, just to be like this little 18-year-old kid like being like, oh, I just want to play like pro hockey. And it's just like, you did that. So now you have bigger expectations now. It's now you want to play at the highest level of pro hockey. Like, so I think that's me now. It's like looking at that last year, I sent a text to my mom and I sent her the link to the video. I was like, crazy how much I've grown up. And then I said the next text, I was like, I'm so excited for my next 5 years. Cause it's like, I want to see where I'm at when I'm 29 years old or 28 years old. And it's like, by that time, when I'm in my late 20s, it's like, I should be playing some of my best hockey, and I've grown and grown into a grown man, and I want to be at one of the highest levels in hockey I can. Like, if it's not the National Hockey League, I'll play in the best league in Sweden. I'll play in the best league in Germany. Like, it's like, I want to be making a good amount of money playing this game. Like, I want to be one of the best players like in the world, like, and prove myself. Like I said to you, it's only so many jobs, right? There's 2 goalies a team, 31 NHL teams. Yep. It's 62 goalies in North America. So if I'm not top 62 in North America, can I be top 30 over in Europe?
Most likely.
Yeah, like that would be a sustainable goal for me. If I'm top 100 goaltenders in the world, let's do that. Like, and I think that would be an unbelievable experience to be able to support. Like, maybe I'll have a family by then. Like, who knows? Like, that's a very like curious question, just because I don't know what that's going to look like. And it's just because that's kind of the nature of the sport. Yep. You never know. So I'm hoping good things, but one day at a time. That's why you just got to keep waking up and doing your thing. So
there's one question that I asked sometime, and you partially answered it, is if you met the 10-year-old yourself, what would you tell him? So, and it's one thing that you said, when you were just 5 years ago, you were hoping to do that. Now looking for just 5 years, you can be proud. Even if you have tough moments, even today, you can be proud because you achieved what you were hoping 5 years ago. Yeah. But if you had one piece of advice you could give to the 10-year-old you, or let's say 12-year-old you, what would it be?
I would say I would have told 10-year-old me to probably never download Twitter. And then I would just tell him to like not read into things, like just like, and be confident. Like, I feel like that was a big part of maturing for myself, was that I was drafted so high in the National Hockey League. It's like a 2nd round pick to the National Hockey League. And for a goalie, that's pretty high. So there was so much expectations, and I was drafted in Minnesota, and the state of hockey, they love hockey there. And it's very similar to here. It's like if you're playing for the Leafs as a goaltender, it's like you have so much pressure. So it's, when I wasn't playing my best hockey with Iowa, you feel that pressure of everybody. It's the expectations. It's like, why aren't you performing? We expect you to be here. Why aren't you? And then you see another goalie get drafted, and you're like, okay, well, my job's about to get taken. And like, that's essentially what happened for me. I was selected high, and then didn't really have the greatest start to my pro career. And then they take a goalie in the 1st round, like 2 years later. And I'm like, all right, well, now I have competition in this organization, and who knows how this is going to go, right? Yep. So, I would just tell the 10-year-old me to stay confident, and, don't read into things, and just be confident in who you are, and just focus on what you're doing. Don't worry about everybody else. Just focus on what you're doing, because it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Like, you're the one that's got to go in the net and stop the pucks. Like, so, and that's the nature of the job too, is that, you can throw a defenseman or a forward into the lineup and then tell them to hop out there for a shift, and then take them off the ice because they had a bad shift. But like, as a goalie, it's like they are out there, and they like, the nature of the job is that it's just, plays develop, and, you might get scored on, you might not. And sometimes you have some really bad nights, and that can affect you a lot, especially if you're not playing a ton of games. Like, let's say I have 4 great games in a row where I give up only 2 or 3 goals, and then I go in for a game, for my 5th game, and I give up 8 goals or something stupid, and like, maybe I don't get a lot of shots against, and then the next day I get sent down. It's like, okay, my numbers just got absolutely boosted out of the, like, I don't have any opportunity to bring them back down. Yeah. It's just like, now forever, if I don't get another opportunity, my numbers are going to be cemented looking like crap. And it's like people don't see the body of work that you have, and then one game might affect it. So it's very difficult. It's like pitching, it's very similar to pitching. It's like you have a great like couple innings, and then you might give up like a 3-run home run. You're like, geez, like there goes my ERA, So it's, I think goaltending and pitching are very similar in that regard.
Interesting. You said you would advise yourself not to install Twitter. Are you active on social media? And is there a place where the hockey fans here in Montreal, Laval, and Trois-Rivières should follow you as you join the team?
Yeah, I'm on basically everything. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. I had a TikTok account I still have it, but I haven't posted a lot recently on it just because I wouldn't say I had hate on it, but I definitely was getting teased at the rink for it a couple times just for like posting some like daily life like vlogs or whatever. When I was in Minnesota at camp or whatever, I was just trying to put some content out there, and I managed to get like 14,000 followers on my TikTok for a couple of videos that went pretty viral in the algorithm. So I haven't done that in a while, but the Twitter aspect, why I say that is just because when everything was going poorly at the time, like, and people have expectations, like people are sports writers or they're not. People might just be like in their basement, just like hate tweeting at me. You know what I mean? It's just like
that's
Hunter Jones is brutal. Like it's just like, we don't need me reading Twitter was just like, I never needed any of that extra in the back of my head. Right.
Probably never took you up, but took you down many, many times. Probably.
Exactly. So it's just like, I just try to stay away from that now. Like I'm on Twitter still, and like Twitter is very like, it's a news related thing, right? Like, it's very new. Like that's our news as young people, and I just think when you get into like the internals of it, when you're actually like trying to search yourself and seeing like what comes up and what people are talking about you, like you're only going to find negative things, and then it can go the other way too. Like let's say I play an unbelievable game, and everybody speaks highly about you, right? So it's highs and lows, but I don't really do that anymore just because it doesn't matter. Like I told you earlier, it doesn't matter what other people think. They're not going in the net. And also, like half the people that are tweeting at me, they're just eating Cheetos in their basement. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. So best advice for people to follow you will be to watch TV and see you play, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my Instagram is wide open, so like my Instagram is just my life and stuff like that.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't post much on Twitter. If people tweet at me and or like congratulate me and stuff like that, I always repost it on Twitter, but I don't really like tweet. Or I guess it's X now or whatever the heck it is. But yeah.
Sweet. And the last, finally, question. That wall that you saw here was something I've been building for some time, with amazing like history from different athletes, individual sports, Olympic athletes, and now a few sports team. Do you have anything in your collection, something that you've used in your career?
Oh,
that
yeah, I thought about you like just coming up, the hockey stick here. It's just one from the past season that I was using at the end of the season here. Nice. And yeah, I just brought an extra with me in case I broke one while the couple of days I was training here. But no, it's
so nice. I'll just show it up here. Yeah. So from last season, you said it shows that it's been used.
Yeah, it's been used. I didn't want to retape it because I felt like that would have been authentic to have.
No, that's perfect. Would you mind putting a small signature on it to authenticate it?
Yeah.
I'll just hold I'll just drop the mic if you want. Wherever you think is best. It's a Sharpie, so it should hold, whether it's here or somewhere.
Do you want it on the white or do you want it on the green?
Your call. That's one piece of collection. It's actually one of the nicest stuff, probably with the fencing helmet. What's that? Yes, I do. French from France. Yes, correct. Correct. So I'll have to find something to hang it, or just I'll see. Interesting challenge to have. Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I'll have to find the best spot. Looking great.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Hunter. I wish you the best for the upcoming season.
Thank you.
I'll come see you wherever you play.
Absolutely.
Trois-Rivières, I would say Rivière-Rouge. Trois-Rivières is not far either, so I'll definitely get a few tickets for me and my friends.
100%. Yeah, let me know. I can put them aside for you. Not a big deal at all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Hunter. Best of
worries.
success. Bye.